All right, cool. Neat. All right. Let's see how this does. So my camera's right there. Kind of wondering if this is the best place for it. Let's see. I'd like to do this somehow fun for you guys. So I got my camera there. My light is like right behind you. I think I'm gonna place it right about here. Sorry for anybody watching this in the future, but this is like a lot of jerry rigging. All right. Hopefully some people show up. Let's see. I got my Larceny hat. I don't know where, I forget where I got it, but I got it. All right, so let's get all up here. Let's start off with. Okay. All right. Guess, let's see. Heaven, hell, Larceny, yes. Sure, my mic is on. Sure is. Good to go. Really hoping some people show up. Be a lot more fun to do this in front of people. All right. 3. Oh, didn't turn my camera. I was so preoccupied with the other stuff. Alrighty. Larceny's a little out of focus. Alright. There we go. Still nobody in here. Bummer. Alright. Well, we'll see what happens. Should be getting push notifications and stuff pretty soon. It'll be 3.5 minutes in, roughly. Alright, I'll just trim out. Hey, somebody's in here. Cool. So I was just about to get started. I figured I would give you guys a little bit of time to show up. But I am recording and I'm filming here. Unfortunately in portrait mode. For whatever reason I was having trouble landscaping. So let's see how this goes. Doing this with an audience, that'll be fun. Let me make sure that the comments are on because it'd be kind of fun to see. If not completely distracting. Alright. Oh, you left. Bummer. Alright. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I need a drink. What do we got? Talking about the distillery with Larceny. It's good to go. Alright. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight we're going to be talking about one of my favorite bourbons, Larceny. Now Larceny is a Kentucky straight bourbon. It is bottled at 46 ABV, so 92 proof. 46% ABV. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite bourbons, Larceny. Now Larceny is a Kentucky straight bourbon bottled at 46% ABV. So one of the things to know about Larceny is that it's from Heaven Hill. And although I haven't necessarily talked about Heaven Hill, I've touched on it a little bit, Larceny itself has its own history, and that's more what I'd like to focus on for the sake of this review. So prior to doing this review, I did not know what the key or even the name of Larceny really meant. So I kind of did my research because, you know, that's kind of what I do. And it turns out that the whiskey is actually aptly named. It's named after this guy, John E. Fitzgerald, sort of. There's a, no. Where's everybody? Come on, people. Come on, peeps. I want to make this push notification. All right, let's try this. 3. Nope, battery. This has been a super interesting stream so far, I'm sure. 7 minutes of fun. All right. Anyway, this is what behind the scenes looks like. It's a lot of me fiddling, and then occasionally I'm filming. So let's try it again. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'll be talking about one of my favorite bourbons called Larceny. Now, Larceny is a Kentucky straight bourbon. Most of you have probably heard of it, but it's important to know that Heaven Hill is, nope, stop saying that. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite bourbons, Larceny. Now, Larceny is a Kentucky straight bourbon bottled at 46% ABV, so it's got a bit of a punch to it. And it's made by Heaven Hill. However, that is not to say that Larceny itself does not have its own history, and that's more what I'd like to focus on this review. Hello. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to you about Larceny. Now, Larceny is one of my favorite bourbons. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon. It's we got Steve. Hey, Steve. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hey, Steve, if you'd like, you're welcome to share this link over in the Discord. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be focusing on one of my favorite bourbons. This is called Larceny, and it's a Kentucky straight bourbon bottled at 46% ABV. Now, Heaven Hill does make this whiskey, but that's not to say that Larceny itself doesn't have its own history, and that's more what I'd like to focus on. So, when I first did this review and started doing my research, I did not know what the key or even the name Larceny really meant, and luckily doing research is kind of what I do. So I found out that it is actually aptly named. Now there's a guy named John E. Fitzgerald, and you may have heard of a whiskey called Old Fitzgerald, and that's who it's named after. However, John E. Fitzgerald was in fact a real person, and he was not a master distiller or an owner or anything. He was basically a security guard hired by the government to take care of the rick house at Heaven Hill. And he was one of the few people who had keys to that rick house. So one thing that seemed to happen a lot when John was on duty was that whiskey would disappear. And it came to be kind of an inside joke, or just at the very least a story that people knew, that the barrels within the rick house that seemed to be a little bit lighter, they tended to be better. They started calling them Fitzgerald barrels, specifically the light ones. And that tradition continues on at the Old Fitzgerald Distillery to this day. So, Larceny is what's called a wheated bourbon. What that means is its second ingredient behind corn is wheat. In this case, it's 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% barley. So let's go ahead and get into the nosing and the tasting of this particular whiskey. Alright, gonna give myself a nice little pour there. Alright, so this does have 46%, so when you're inhaling, you want to be a little bit cautious, but it's not too bad on the burn. So, So for me, one of the main things that I get out of the nose is kind of like fresh baked wheat bread. And that's interesting because obviously that wheat influence is there pretty heavily in the mash bill. And in general, getting that wheat out of a nose is not super common unless you're drinking a wheated bourbon. So anyway, nice freshly baked wheat bread. After that, I kind of get a little bit of butterscotch, but there's not a whole lot more going on in the nose there. It's a bit of a bourbon, you know, I mean, it's got a little bit of oak or whatever, but most of those are really, really muted to the point where I'm not even going to put them in my list here. I'm just going to go straight up bread and butterscotch. All right, let's go ahead and give this a taste. So, cheers. Now, it's a very, very smooth whiskey, and that's really appreciated, especially when you consider the fact that adding water to this will actually, this is one that is improved by adding water. Now, I did that in my previous but when I was tasting this originally and making my notes, I added water, so I do have a little bit of that in the notes here. But the number one thing that I get out of this whiskey is cinnamon and then honey. And you get a little bit of butterscotch once you add the water. But once again, you're not looking at a terribly complex whiskey. It's just enjoyable. You know, this is not going to be a challenge to anybody. This is something that you can actually maybe cut your teeth on a little bit. If you want to try this whiskey, you know what's in it. You from this review or anybody else's review, I think will probably be very similar. You're going to see that it's only got a couple of things to pick out, and when you pick those out, it might help you to gain a little bit of confidence in your nosing and your tasting. All right, so my overall of this. Now, those of you that have watched my channel may have noticed that a couple of weeks ago I did kind of a top 5 whiskeys to go back to. And this one I believe was either number 2 or number 3. And it is personally something that I constantly stock. I've always got a bottle of this. And the reason for that is that it's only like $20 in my area. It's a very, very inexpensive whiskey. It's very reliable. And if you want to, makes a good mixer. So I would compare this roughly to about the Weller 12. And the good news is it's not going to cost you a fortune like the Weller currently is, which the price of that is insane. But anyway, I highly, highly recommend this whiskey. If you've never tried Larceny for whatever reason, me personally, it took me a few years before I finally tried this, and now it's something I've constantly got in my bar. So I highly recommend this as a stock it. I think you should go out and buy it today if you've never tried it. If you have tried it, you probably already have a bottle. So thank you for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Cheers. Wow, that actually went really, really well. I was expecting to be flubbing lines all over the place and give you guys a real good show. Maybe I'll just film my next episode. Either way, let me check out the chat here. I almost gave you guys a cheers, but then I thought it might be a little pandering if I'm like, I'd like to cheers all my patrons. So let's see, we got hi Bill on my phone, not my computer. Love the hi Bill. Yeah, this is funny. I got this at a whiskey tasting actually. Thought it was appropriate to wear for today. So I've actually worn it during the winters over here in Massachusetts. I totally forgot to mention it during the video, but sometimes it's kind of fun to not address headgear that I have, as you guys have seen with like the turkey hat and stuff. Boy, my forehead looks huge when I'm this close to the camera. A couple minor flubs, no biggie. I did get the link on Discord. Thank you, Steve. All right, cool. Yeah, I guess I could cheers everybody. I suppose that's fair. So this is the second that I've filmed tonight. I do need to take some notes before I film my next one, but there's no reason I can't do that and kind of chat with you guys. So let me go put this aside because at the end of the night, I tend to drink whatever I've got left. So give me 1 sec, I'll be right back. I'm pretty much just right behind you guys. Yeah, and I don't really sweat the minor flow. It makes it seem a little bit more honest, I guess you'd call it. I'm going to do the Pikesville next, I think. Alright. Cool. So, one thing that you guys don't actually, you know what, there's no reason I can't show you. So, as I said, I'm trying to give you guys a behind the scenes. So, obviously there's my, where am I? There's my chair. Sorry, sitting on all of these things. it's interesting to know how, perspective works, because this bottle's kind of small and it's going to look decent on camera. So I got my laptop over there with kind of like more in-depth notes, which I usually write up notes, and I tape them to my tripod right here. And then I've got my camera and I've got my light. That's really all I need. Normally I obviously don't have this camera running, but I put you kind of right in front of the camera, the light, so that you guys would have kind of one of the better views. So would be a complete waste if you didn't sip on those later. Yeah, no, totally. I would feel very bad about how much I would be throwing down the drain. All right, so we got Pikesville. Let me take some notes here. So how are you guys doing tonight? I almost didn't film tonight. I was putting the kids to bed and I was like exhausted. Oh no. My notebook is completely out of paper. Oh well, I guess I'll use one of these yellow, separator things. I don't have an extra notebook here at the moment. At least not one of these kind of guys. So I'm glad I could do a thing for just you guys, just the patrons and the Discord people. I ended up inviting you guys as well, as some of you have seen. Let's see, move that to ready for editing. Go back over here. So I currently have Lafroig Quarter Cask, Chivas Regal 12 Year, and Pikesville Rye. And I'm tempted to do, actually, maybe I'll do the Chivas. I think I'm going to do the Chivas. It's not as long. And I've been wanting to get rid of the bottle for a long time because I don't really love it. What's that say? Yeah, I do want to do Lafroig, but I'm going to do that one last just because of the way it's going to kill taste buds. And I can still kind of taste it by the time I've done 3 or 4 episodes. So I've actually filmed 2 episodes already tonight. I did one that's whiskey versus whiskey, and then, E, and then no E. And then I just did that Larceny. Now I'm about to do Chivas Regal. So when I'm taking my notes here, it's mostly just kind of what you would expect as if you were doing notes in a classroom. I already have a script written. Let's see. Still at work, sadly. Got some good career news, though. Still breaking open a celebratory Woodford Reserve tonight. Awesome. Well, congrats. That's awesome. Whatever your news is, I'm happy for you. All right. Today I'm going to be talking about Chivas Regal 12 Year. So if you guys would like to hear this just for the heck of it, to know what I write versus what actually comes out. So today I'm going to be talking about Chivas Regal 12 Year, a blended Scotch whiskey bottled at 80 proof. Normally I talk about the distillery or the brand, and I intend on doing that, but truthfully there's not a whole lot going on with this brand. Don't get me wrong, it's very popular. It's the second best-selling blend in the world behind Johnny Walker Black, but there really wasn't anything that interesting. The Chivas brothers were James and John, and in the 1800s James found himself working at a grocery store that featured high-end products. James realized that there was a demand for a smoother whiskey, so he began blending whiskeys that he could get his hands on and came up with Royal Glen D. 10 years later, he released the second blend called Royal Strathethen. Oh boy. Royal Strathethen. I feel like Mike Tyson. Strathythan. Strathethen. This held up well for a few decades until the early 1900s, and Chivas Regal was released for shipment to the U.S. to take advantage of a nation that wanted new high-end whiskey. In 1909, Chivas released a Chivas Regal 25-year-old as the original luxury style. That became a leading brand in the U.S. Other than a few other releases included Chivas Regal Extra, the 18-year, the re-release of the 25-year, and a few more, there's really not much more interesting about this brand. So as you can see, I kind of have to stretch it to even find anything worth talking about for this brand. It's just, I was surprised. It's such an old brand, you'd think there'd be something more interesting. Anyway, that's kind of the idea of what I do with the brand, but when you guys see what it actually comes out as, I'm going to miss half these points, or at least somehow get them not as smooth sounding. So, alright. So, give me a couple minutes here. Yeah, I really have no, plan. You know what? One thing I do like to do, which I think you guys could probably appreciate. Oh, that's right, screw top. Good to figure that out off camera. I like to pour myself a little something before I start, because it makes it a little easier to film. Now this I don't mind shooting if I need to. Let's see, Chivas right back at you. Oh, cheers right back at you. Nice. Oh, okay, got it. Nose is actually pretty good. I wrote this episode like 2 weeks ago, so I kind of forgot what the nose is. And that's where it's kind of the letdown. The taste is meh. It's very just kind of that like fake sweetness, almost like a what's similar to that? Kind of like a less burny Johnny Walker. Nah, it's not like a Johnny Walker Black. Maybe almost like a green, but not really. I want to say red, but it's not really. So I don't know. Splenda, yeah. All right. So anyway, not a lot going on. Very popular. Second behind J.W. Black. James, you know, it's funny. I actually had way better luck filming this, knowing that you guys are watching. Filming that last one, that was like my second take. I did a take, or maybe 2 or 3 takes before most of you came in. And I get it, there's not a ton of you in yet, but it was interesting. I did a lot better once I knew you guys were watching. So I remember that from a previous episode too. Boy, people are dropping out. That's no fun. I don't blame them. I'm making notes right now. All right, 1800s. James found himself working at a grocery store. All right. Grocery, high end. So who's still at work right now? And why? Actually, I guess, well, it's 10 o'clock, so even if you were in California time, it'd be 7 o'clock. Smoother whiskey. Blending. You're working from home? Yeah. That's about what I do when I work from home. Oftentimes. I have a very hard time focusing when I work from home. All right, Royal Glendy. Glendy. All right. And then 10 years later, Royal Strath. I'm gonna say that wrong, and I'm gonna admit it. These wonderful people at the office who make our lives just a little harder than they have to be. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. I feel your pain right now. I'm kind of in the same boat, feeling like I'm fixing a lot of people's problems lately. And I recently got a promotion as well, and I'm now a director of development, which means, oh, apparently my camera was still on. Anyway, I'm a manager of managers now, and I've got a lot of messes to clean up. You would think I would get a little bit better, you know, a little less hands-on, but no. I can be, but we're a little understaffed at the moment. This held up well for a few decades until the early 1900s. It was released as shipment in the U.S. to take advantage of nationwide. All right, so early 1900s went to U.S. Chivas Regal Extra, 18-year, 25-year. No luxury scotch. All right. Not interesting. That's, I'm writing that right here, exclamation point. All right, let's see. That got released. I don't know what that was about. All right. So another thing, well, hold on. Strathyla and Longmore. Blend of several single malts. Right. Blend of several single malts. And this is how I managed to remember all this crap, because I often say that I know everything there is to know about a whiskey until I'm done recording the episode. And then I often forget a lot of it. I retain some of it, but I mean, there's so much. And there's so many different types of whiskey. So it's chill filtered, it's colored, but it is a blend. So that's okay, which makes sense. All right, so then I always write down the nose and the taste, because why not? I don't always get everything when I'm actually recording. Oftentimes I'm not. I figure it out sitting on my couch. And then I kind of parrot it. Sometimes I'll pick up new stuff while I'm filming, and you can actually probably tell because my eyes get a little wider, and I'll often spend a little bit more time on it. All right, let's see. All right, sweet, virtually no finish. All right, almost done. So now I write the final little bit. Labor of love. That should tell you what I think of this whiskey. 5 times. Not interesting. Yep. I'm going to film in probably a minute and a half here. So if anybody's just kind of hanging out, yeah, I see I dropped a few people, and I don't blame them. Hopefully they come back. We'll see. Yep. All right. When I do tell you a little bit more about the whiskey, approachable. Cool. First time I'll be using one of these guys. Let me take this up to my camera. I will say that you guys kind of have a cool little sneak peek at what this is really like. I get that it's not the most thrilling thing in the world, but once I'm actually recording, my guess is I'm going to do a little bit worse filming this one because I don't know as much about it off the top of my head, but we'll see. Now the battery is dead, so I got to replace the battery. That's super fun. So I film with a D3200, which is a Nikon, and the D3200, it's actually been pretty good. I would love to get a camera that was 4K. Only because I could do a few more things. Oops. Move that. Yeah, the top. Alright, make sure I'm focused. The shivas needs to move. Back a little bit. Get that whiskey going in there. How'd you guys do for Thanksgiving? Did everybody have a good Thanksgiving? Hopefully you did. Hopefully you ate as much as I did. Because food is tasty. Alright, so here we go. Gonna film. Cool. Zoom back out a little bit, just a tad. Alright. Make sure that my camera is on, or sorry, my microphone is on. Alright, here we go. Let's see what you guys have going on here before I start. Thank God I get stuck over. Alright. Ooh, the open bay. Alright, what do we got? I meant the GOT release, but it's not out there yet. Steve A. The open. Had some Four Roses single better. What were you sipping on for Thanksgiving, everyone? Oh yeah, that's a good question. I I actually finished off the old Pulteney 1983. I had my dad and my brother-in-law up, and my dad truly appreciates that kind of stuff. My brother-in-law enjoys it that it's special, you know. Okay, so those are all going away. All right. All right. All right. 3, 2. Do I have headroom? I think I'm okay. It's hard to tell. All right. 3, 2, 1. I wish I could tell. I think my head's out of frame. Hold on. So one downside to not really having a studio setup, downsides actually, but the inconsistencies with lighting and all that stuff, it's annoying. Oh, well, I don't want to delete that. That's Larceny. All right, let's try this again. That's a bit awful. I just almost deleted the Larceny video. That would have been stupid. I usually put it on my laptop as soon as I'm done filming, but for sake of time and the fact that I'm already kind of just sitting here, not being super exciting, I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting for you guys. All right, so here we go. I'm going to talk about the distillery, the brand. I tend on doing that, but truthfully, blah, blah, blah. All right. What's going on? All right, so I'm about to film an episode of the Chivas Regal 12. Yep, and kind of talk about that. So let's do this. 3, 2, this might be a shit show. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Chivas Regal 12 year. Now this is a blended Scotch whiskey bottle there. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you a bit this is more like it. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a blended Scotch whiskey called Chivas Regal 12. It's a 40% ABV whiskey, and frankly, there's not a whole lot. Shit. How do I want to get into this? Now I'm going to talk about the distillery of the brand. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Chivas Regal 12 year. Now, this is, how the hell, normally I talk about the distillery of the brand. I intend on doing that, but just, all right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Chivas Regal, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Chivas Regal 12 year. This is a blended Scotch whiskey bottled at 40% ABV. So normally I will talk about the brand or the distillery or whatever, and I'm intending on doing that, but I just need to put this out there that there's really not a whole lot going on with this whiskey. It's very popular, don't get me wrong. It's, in fact, it's second most, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a blended Scotch whiskey called Chivas Regal 12. Now, I'm sure you've seen it in your stores, it's been around forever and it's very, very popular. So one thing that kind of sucks is that there's not a whole lot to say. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Chivas Regal 12 year. Now I want to talk about the, fuck. I'm telling you, man, it's not easy. It's really not. It's it comes out a lot better in post often. Let's see. Remind me to never start a YouTube channel. Well, it's funny because so many people ask me that shit, and then they do, and they start a YouTube channel and they do like 1, maybe 2 episodes, and they just do this. They go, "Hello, welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. This is a bottle of Chivas Regal 12. It's blended Scotch whiskey, bottled at 40% ABV." Like that's, and I get it. I probably wasn't much better during my Jack Daniels episode, that first one. It's really hard to maintain the energy and the enthusiasm, especially when you're talking about shit whiskey like this. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about a blended Scotch whiskey called Chivas Regal 12. Now, there is a lot shit, I'm going the wrong way. 3, 2, 1, go. Sorry. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about Chivas Regal 12. Now, Chivas Regal is a blended Scotch whiskey, in this case, bottled at 40% ABV. Now, usually I would talk about the blender, the brand, the distiller, whoever, but I gotta be honest with you, there's just not a whole lot going on with this particular whiskey and the brand. But let me just talk about what I found. So, it is very popular, obviously. Most of you have seen this before. If you haven't, you've probably never been to a liquor store. It's the second most popular whiskey behind Johnnie Walker Black. And the, Chivas, how do I roll into that? The second, doesn't mean, yeah, okay, all right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about Chivas Regal 12 here. This is a blended Scotch whiskey bottled at 80% ABV. Now, usually I would talk about the blender or the brand or the distiller or whoever, but I gotta be honest, there's just not a whole lot going on with this brand. I'll talk to you about what I found though. So, it is very popular. Obviously, everybody here has seen this in the store. It's the second most popular behind Johnnie Walker Black, and that doesn't mean it's interesting. So, James and John are the Chivas brothers, and back in the 1800s, they worked at a grocery store. And James, who, he was kind of a little bit more creative, he found that there was a desire for smoother whiskeys. Now, his grocery store would sell whiskeys that they had brought in, but he wanted to make something smoother. So he started blending the stuff that he was able to get his hands on. And over time, he actually developed something that tasted pretty good. And it was called Royal Glen D. And he sold that for a little while, about 10 years, when 10 years later, he created Royal Strathathen. I obviously am going to say that wrong. I'm not even going to refilm it because I've tried to pronounce that about 40 times and I just can't get it. So one of you correct me if there's a better way to say it in the comments. Anyway, in the early 1900s, the Chivas brothers, basically, they wanted to prepare something that they could sell to the United States market because we were just whiskey hungry. And that's where Chivas Regal came from. They ended up kind of producing this, mass producing it, selling it in the US, and then, over a little bit of time when they found that there was just a huge amount of demand, they actually created the first original luxury whiskey, which was their 25-year-old version. Now, after a little bit longer, they came up with a few different expressions, basically the Chivas Regal Extra, the 18-year, a re-release of the 25-year, and that's it. Like I said, not a whole lot interesting. The original luxury Scotch was pretty cool, but outside of that, not a whole lot going on. This whiskey is a blend of many different single malts, but some of the main pieces are from Strathyla and from Longmore. It is chill filtered, it is colored, and it is a blend. So consistency is important, which makes sense why they would chill filter it and color it. So I'm not really gonna, give them too many names. It makes sense. That being said, I hate the whole concept. All right, let's go ahead and get into the nosing and the tasting of this. So, it does have a screw top, which, whatever. Not a huge fan. Although I will say I'm starting to hate it a little bit less because at least it makes it a little easier to travel. And I tend to bring some bottles around with me nowadays. All right, let's go ahead and give this a nose. Now the nose is actually pretty impressive. For this whiskey, I was surprised when I first nosed it. A few of the things that you get right off the bat, you get caramel, and then it's kind of followed up a little bit by some subtle vanilla, and then surprisingly you get a little bit of graham cracker in there, which I'm trying to remember if I've ever actually had that note before. I might have to find a new icon for that. So then you also have this sweetness, which I cannot put my finger on. It's there, it's almost like a fake sweetness. I was joking with somebody earlier, he said aspartame, but obviously that's not that. It's just a very subtle sweetness that I can't put my finger on. Anyway, let's go ahead and give this a taste. Cheers. And that's where the disappointment starts. So this is approachable. It is not terrible. It's honestly, it's not. It's just a letdown after a nose like that. It's almost like it could have been fantastic if it could follow that nose, but instead the taste is just a letdown. It's a little bit grainy. It's got that same kind of fake sweetness to it, which is not unappreciated when it's kind of compared to that graininess that you're getting as well, but ultimately there's really just nothing going on in here. It tastes like alcohol. So, I don't know. Let's go into the kind of overall here. I think that you could probably get a sense that I'm not in love with this whiskey. In fact, writing this episode was a bit of a labor of love. I've literally tried to write this episode 5 different times. And every time that I did, I just kept getting disheartened at the fact that it was not an interesting whiskey to write about. And because of that, I kept putting it off. I've had this bottle for a while at this point. Now, I considered buying a new one just in the event that maybe it would taste a little bit different, but it won't. I've actually tried it at a bar about 3 weeks ago just to make sure that I wasn't, kind of selling it short, and it tastes exactly the same. So this is not one that being open in a bottle really affects too much. Makes sense too. It's not a complex whiskey. So when I was in Austin a little while ago for the opening of the Crowded Barrel Distillery, I had a conversation with Rex, and I told him the trouble I was having writing this episode. I figured I could, kind of pick his brain what he does when he's uninterested in the whiskey that he's reviewing. And he said, just film it. And I kind of asked him to elaborate. He's like, it's not your job to make the whiskey interesting. It's your job to tell people about the whiskey and tell them why it sucks, or if it sucks, or why it's good, or if it's good, So that kind of hit home, and I went and I wrote the episode. So thank you, Rex, if you happen to be watching this. I appreciate it, and you are the sole reason I'm doing this episode. Anyway, let's kind of just... In my mind, this whiskey is not necessary to taste. Chances are, if you're watching a channel like this, you have tried some fantastic whiskeys, or even if you're at the start of your whiskey journey, you're probably already past this one. If you wouldn't go out of your way to have some of the lower end Johnny Walkers, or like a Cuddy's, or Canadian, just like some low end whiskeys, then skip. You're not going to miss out on anything. So that does it for this episode of the Whiskey Dictionary. Thank you for joining me, and have a great rest of your night. Cheers. All right. Well, that was a little slow going, but got it in there. So let me just hit stop. I think I got it. Boy, it's there we go. All right, cool. I'm actually gonna kind of take this and raise you guys way up here. Give me just a sec to adjust my tripod, because I want to film another one, but I don't want to make you guys sit through me writing notes, because it's kind of boring. So instead, I'll just have a quick little conversation with you guys. I'll probably pop off and go film 2 more episodes. But, there we go. All right, let's do this. Cool. Well, I still got kind of the MySpace angle going on there. All right. I feel like I'm tiny. Let's do this. This is actually a pretty cool tripod. This tripod for my mobile phone cost me about $11, and it's not bad. All right, so let's see what's going on here. You managed to get through, yeah. Most blends are kind of a simple, not enough depth for enough interesting flavor. Nailed it, thank you. Feels like this happens a lot with blends. The nose is much better than the taste, That's probably a good point, because it makes it like if that's going to be your first impression, and then you might just doubt yourself that you didn't like it. So that's actually a good, interesting take. Mooch is a better whiskey. Anyway, so what'd you guys think? I get that if I were a little bit more prepared to do something like this, like where if I didn't have to write notes, and I was able to just kind of do episode after episode after episode, is this something that you guys would like to watch again? Just as kind of a perk of being kind of in the in the group of, the Whiskey Dick patrons and Discord, and that is this interesting, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Yeah, it really is just uninteresting. So, yeah, we got the Christmas decorations going on up there. Just put them on. You managed to get through it. For sure, honestly, I liked it even with you taking the notes. Well, thanks, Misha. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's entertaining and helpful to see behind the scenes. I always loved watching behind the scenes stuff. Sure love this personal take. All right, good. I'm glad you guys like this. I've been trying to find a way to give the, kind of the $1 patrons more, because I feel bad. Like, I don't really do anything special until that next tier. I agree. It's kind of like we're all hanging out. We definitely tune in again. Love behind the scenes. All right, cool. It could be an interesting evening every now and then. Yes, unlike the shows, the notes thing isn't a problem. Cool. That's really funny, Steve. So, Steve, you should be getting your package Friday or Monday, one of the two. Depending on, actually, it's being sent FedEx, and it'll require a signature. So, Friday or Monday, I guess, if it's going to your work. Thursday. Oh, okay. You've been. Did you get the email that was like, this is your tracking number kind of thing? I'm guessing you did. I've been selling out of these coins pretty steadily. Actually, I'm getting excited because the idea of doing a second batch is getting closer and closer. Probably want to sell another 100 of them though. Honestly, to really probably don't even have 100 of that. Yeah. Cool. I want to do a batch. I already have the design done, and I like the design of the second batch more than I like the first design because it's got the new logo and it's got a pretty funny thing on the back in my mind. But that being said, I do like these. I think these are neat, and I like when people ask me about them. I like just giving them away to people too. But that's not conducive to making money. Anyway. I'm definitely going to do at least one more episode. I'll probably do both. But if you guys had to choose, should I do, the Lefroy quarter cask or the Pikesville? What do you think? Updated to Friday, apparently still in time. Cool. I've had this quarter cask for quite a while, so I'm tempted to do this one. Quarter cask. Also had people asking for me to do the quarter cask recently as well, so I'm pretty tempted to do that one. The only thing is I need to decide if I'm going to be able to do both of them, because if I am, I'll do the Lefroy second. And I'm happy that I can actually finish off the Chivas now that I've finished recording, because it takes up space in the bar and it's not great. Yeah, I do think I'm probably going to do Pikesville first. The episode's also a little shorter, so it'll be easier to film. Both great whiskey. Yeah, I agree. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I am. Let me just see. I mean, I kind of don't want to do too much of this because I don't want it to get boring either. Ready for editing. I use Evernote for tracking all of my stuff. So the quarter cask, yeah, that one's gonna take a little while. This one's actually gonna take a little while too. Yeah. All right. True, if do both, you have to do Pikesville first. All right, so yeah, I think I'll do Pikesville, and then I'll do quarter cask. So, that does it for this episode of the Whiskey Dictionary. Do you guys want to keep watching? Should I just keep it rolling? It's up to you. I have no real problem with doing that. In fact, what the hell? I'll just do that anyway. All right, so this will be fun. Actually, I don't want to put this back in here. Let me move this over there. Anybody who doesn't feel like hanging out, feel free to pop out. I won't take it personally. I actually kind of, in hindsight, it's a good idea to leave this open anyway, just because people might not have seen the Patreon alert yet or had a chance to pop in, and I'd like as many people as possible to be able to pop in. All right, let me fix this tripod then. Back you guys back up again. I know the audio is probably not fantastic coming through just the camera, but hopefully you can hear me when I'm doing everything. I'm sure it sounds a little tinny, but that's not too bad. These camera phones are incredible, just when you think about how far camera technology's come. And the fact that I can have this sitting over here, right there, actually. You know, that's not terrible, but I'll put you up higher, right? 1, 2, like a slide whistle. All right. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. I bet I can use it back in this. Yeah, I can. All right. So, Pikesville. All right, well, let me transfer these files either way because I didn't delete anything. Oh, and it's still recording. My memory card is actually warm. My camera's been getting a good use tonight. Alrighty. Larceny. File copies, super fun to watch. This is Shivas 12. Put that in there. Shivas rebuild.movie? What the hell is that? Oh, it was back when I used to record the spinning thing at the beginning of the episodes. The only reason I cut that out actually is because I was noticing a trend of people popping out during that because I didn't want to wait like 5 seconds to watch the spinny thing, which, whatever. I mean, that's not uncommon on YouTube for people not to have any patience. And it's, you know, didn't really add anything to the episode either. Alright. But people who drink whiskey, I suspect, probably have more patience than most. So it's a relaxing hobby. Alright, so, Pikesville. I know it's silly. I always write the name of the one that I'm doing up at the top of the paper because you'd be surprised how many times I've been filming and like forgot the name of the whiskey that I'm doing, especially when I'm doing multiple in a row. More often than not, it's like I'll forget the style of whiskey. You know, if it's a Kentucky straight bourbon or something like that, I'll just be like, oh, this is Larceny. It's a Kentucky blended Scotch or something stupid, you know. But having it right there in front of me, I don't. You'd be surprised at the stupid stuff that comes out of your face when you're in front of a camera. All right, 55% ABV, straight rye whiskey from the Heaven Hill Distillery. All right, so straight rye whiskey. Heaven Hill. I need a new pen. A new Sharpie? No Sharpies. All right. Not always that. So what are you guys drinking tonight, if at all? $18.95. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I've done streaming of games. Yeah. Oh, that's gotta be tough. New Sharpie. Yeah, it's gotta be tough to. It's gotta be tough to stream games, just because it's like you always have to be talking and you're super engaged with whatever you're playing because you don't want to look like you suck either. Yeah, I can see that. L. Winand and Brothers Distillery. Scotts Level, Maryland. Oh, that's right. This is like a weird one. Alright, so Pikesville Rye is currently owned and produced by Heaven Hills Distillery in Kentucky, but it was not always that way. In 1895, the L. Winand and Brothers Distillery was started in Scotts Level, Maryland, and they began producing a rye which they dubbed Pikesville Rye after the adjacent town. Historians thought they didn't call it Scots Level because it may sound too much like Scotch. Makes sense. Like many older whiskeys within the United States, they started before and ultimately closed by Prohibition. When Prohibition was repealed in 1933, it took 3 years before Monumental Distillery took over and rejuvenated the Pikesville Rye brand in Baltimore, thus making it the only surviving Maryland-style rye whiskey in the United States. Decades later, and another changing of hands, and Heaven Hill now owns and produces Pikesville Rye. The good thing is, Heaven Hill is known for its brands, and I can safely say that this whiskey is in good hands. Cool. All right. Speaking of rye, whiskey noob here. Anyone have a recommendation for a good budget starter rye? Honestly, try Bullet Rye. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. I was surprised how much I liked Bullet Rye when I first tried it, but there might be some better suggestions in the comments here. All right, $18.95. What the hell kind of name for a town is Scots Level? Rittenhouse, yeah, that's a good one. Actually, no, I have a beginner rye whiskey video. You should check that out. Started in Scots Level, Maryland. So I'm excited. I have the Game of Thrones whiskeys on their way to my house right now. I think it's all 8 of them, but I could be wrong. One of the other patrons put that out there for me. He's awesome. It actually helps the channel a ton. Prohibition. One nice thing about writing them like this is I can post them on Reddit almost unchanged, and it's usually pretty good. So I couldn't quite read your name, but actually, realistically, if you want, go watch that video and come back, and I bet that that's about how much time it'll take me to get through writing these notes and start filming. So you probably won't miss much. Might give you a good idea. Prohibition killed it. 1933. Monumental Distillery. In Baltimore. So there's actually something cool in this episode that I did not know prior to filming it. So it's this, as I mentioned, Pikesville Rye is considered a Maryland-style rye, which is known to be more delicate and sweet than its counterpart, Pennsylvania-style rye, which is bolder and spicier. It's probably why I like this one so much. It's not quite as, like, fire mouth kind of spice. Even it's 51% rye, so it just makes the cut, but it's not crazy spicy. Yeah, Maryland is better. I agree. Everyone I've known from Maryland has actually been pretty nice too. Oh, let's see. Decades later, another changing of hands. Yeah. Heaven Hill, good hands. All right. Pikesville rye is a Maryland style, more delicate and sweet. Pennsylvania style rye. Bolder and spicier. So, since you guys are here anyway, I'm going to give you a heads up. So, tomorrow's episode is on New Riff. Most of the patrons here probably have at least seen the notice. And then Friday's episode is on, I think it's on what bottled in bond means. So, that'll be kind of a short one, but it's a pretty good one. Gotta bounce. Thanks for doing this, Bill, and then good night from Boston. Hey, Misha. I didn't know you were so close. I probably did actually know that, but I'm in Northborough, so. %, rye, 39% corn. 10% malted barley. Malted barley, 6 years. All right. Nose. It's funny when I'm doing these nosing and tasting notes, I always hate when there's more than 4 things because it makes it harder to do my little icons. I have to make them smaller. Almost done. Man, I'm kind of finishing up the year strong with a couple of stockets. All right, cool. So that should be good. Grab this guy. Put you over there. All right, give me 2 minutes. I'll go for it if I really am feeling motivated. Pretty awesome. Alright. You know what I'd love to see? I would love to see a behind the scenes of, you know, like the whiskey vault. I mean, I've seen the vault, I've been in the vault, but it'd be interesting to see how they film because they actually have legit equipment in there. I'd love to get a boom mic, but I'm not sure what to buy. So, we'll see. There's some Black Friday deals going on I've been looking at. I'm also kind of thinking about doing this little thing I've been thinking about doing for a while. The vault is so awesome. Yeah, the vault was very cool. All right. Let's do some Pikesville. L. Winand, I need a drink, and Brothers Distillery. Alright. Okay. as I said, always good to have just a little taste before you drink, before you film. Last thing you want to do is take a sip of this, forget what it tastes like, and cough, because that has happened to me a couple of times and I've had to refilm. Last thing anybody wants to see from a supposed whiskey expert is them coughing when they drink. So. Very, very nice. Alrighty. Pikesville Rye, straight rye whiskey. Heaven Hill, not always L. Winand and Brothers. That's the part I'm going to screw up, I'm sure. Scotts Level, Maryland. Pikesville. Scotts Level, Maryland. Prohibition, 1933. Monumental Distillery. All right. Maryland style rye versus Pennsylvania style rye. Okay, here we go. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. It's a piece of dust. All right, Heaven Hill. All right. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get started. It's weird. It's like talking shouldn't be hard. Alright. Let's see, Bill, we can chat later when I'm on a real computer. I'm sorry, I missed the message, but either way, I'm assuming that you might be popping off, but okay. 3, 2, thank you for joining. 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. My voice is like, bleh. Rye will do that. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorites. This is Pikesville Rye. It's a 110 proof, or 55% ABV bottle of straight rye whiskey. Bleh. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite ryes. This is Pikesville Rye. It's a straight rye whiskey bottled at 55% ABV. Now, this is made by Heaven Hill. However, it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Winand and Brothers were the ones that started a distillery to start making this, and the location that they chose was a place called Scotts Level in Maryland. Now, they dubbed it Pikesville Rye because, historians kind of think that Scotts Level sounds a little bit too much like Scotch, and they didn't really want to confuse the two. Not that anybody would look at this thing and think it was a Scotch. But that being said, this is another whiskey which unfortunately was killed by Prohibition, at least when it started. So after 1933, when Prohibition ended, the brand was acquired by a business called Monumental Distillery. And they were based out of Baltimore. But what they were able to do is kind of maintain what made Pikesville Rye Pikesville Rye. And they maintained that Maryland, this is sucky, all right. All out of breath. All right, Prohibition killed it, Monumental Distillery in Baltimore, Maryland style rye whiskey. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of my, a boot. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is Pikesville Rye, and it's 55 ABV bottled glory. So, it's made by Heaven Hill Distillery, but it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Winand and Brothers, they started a distillery, and they made this whiskey for quite a little while. But then, as happens with a lot of whiskeys that were in the United States during that time, Prohibition killed it. So after Prohibition ended in 1933, another company, Monumental Distillery, came along and bought the brand. They moved over to Baltimore, but they were able to maintain that Maryland-style rye whiskey, which basically kept them as being the only Maryland-style rye whiskey still in existence because of this move. So decades later, and another change of... Wait, I missed something. 3 years. The only surviving Maryland style rye whiskey. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite ryes. This is Pikesville Rye Whiskey, and it's 55% ABV bottled glory. And one thing that, that's another thing that sucks. When I come up with a phrase that I like I kind of want to say bottled glory. But when you say it like 3 or 4 times, it starts losing its edge a little bit. Usually comes out okay on camera, but to me, I feel like a freaking tool. Bottled glory. So, anyway. Alright. 3, 2, 1. It's hot in this house. Jeez. No, phone's right there. I can't turn on the heat. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is called Pikesville Rye, and it's bottled at 55% ABV. Now, Heaven Hill Distillery is the one that owns this currently, but it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Winand and Brothers Distillery, they started this whiskey over in Scotts Level, Maryland. Now, they dubbed it Pikesville Rye, which was based off of the adjacent town, and historians kind of think that they chose not to go with Scotts Level because that's a little bit too close to Scotch. So, this ended up being one of those other kind of whiskeys that was killed by Prohibition. But when Prohibition was, fuck me, damn it. All right. You can usually feel when it's going wrong. It builds and builds and builds, and then eventually you have to give up. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is Pikesville Rye, and it is 55% ABV of bottled glory, and it's owned by Heaven Hill Distillery. However, it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Winand and Brothers Distillery, they created Pikesville Rye, and they started in a town called Scotts Level, Maryland. Now, historians kind of think that they didn't name it Scotts Level just because that kind of sounds a little bit like Scotch, and it makes as much sense as anything else in the whiskey world. So they dubbed it Pikesville Rye. And fuck me, damn it. I kept thinking I was going to burp. Yeah, all right. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is Pikesville Rye Straight Rye Whiskey. It's 55% and now I'm getting tired because it's 11 o'clock. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to talk to you about Pikesville Rye. Now, this is 55% ABV straight rye whiskey, bottled glory. But it is, oh, fuck, not but. 3, 2, 1, go. You guys are going to watch this episode and hear me say bottled glory, and you're going to be like, what a tool. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm here to talk to you about Pikesville Rye. This is one of my favorite rye whiskeys, and it's bottled at 55% ABV, and it is just pure glory. It is made by Heaven Hill Distillery, but it was not always that way. In 1895, L. Winand and Brothers Distillery were the ones that kind of created this. And they did it in this town called Scotts Level, Maryland, but they dubbed it Pikesville Rye, which was after the adjacent town. Now, historians think that they did that because Scotts Level sounds a little bit too much like Scotch. But like many whiskeys that were around in early America, or early 1900s, I should say, it was killed by Prohibition. Boo. So in 1933, when Prohibition ended, it took another 3 years for a company called Monumental Distillery to acquire the brand. And they brought everything over into Baltimore. And they kind of remained, true to the original recipe, and they made this the only remaining Maryland-style rye whiskey in existence in the United States. So decades later, Heaven Hill Distillery ended up buying the brand. Now the good thing is Heaven Hill makes a fantastic product. Just pretty much all of their stuff is awesome. So I know that this is in good hands. And Pikesville Rye is, as I was saying, it's kind of a Maryland-style whiskey. Fuck damn it, Durr. Fuck damn it, Durr. Oh, man. So when I go through the different segments of the brand and then the whiskey and the nosing and the tasting, that's usually where I get screwed up because it's not always a good segue. As you guys probably remember, I used to do cuts in between, so I don't do that anymore. I like doing just the one take, but it's tough. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody. I should actually start this video over. Hold on. SD cards and cameras have a 20-minute limit because otherwise they would be considered a camcorder, and there are additional taxes having to do with that, which I didn't know. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is Pikesville Rye, and it is a straight rye whiskey bottled at 55% ABV, bottled glory, and it's made by Heaven Hill, but it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Wynyard and Brothers Distillery Company, they started this company in Scotts Level, Maryland. And Scotts Level, Maryland is right next to Pikesville. And that's why they dubbed it Pikesville, because historians kind of think that Scotts Level, Maryland might sound a little bit too much like Scotch, so they didn't want to kind of have that connotation. Either way, like most whiskeys that were around in the early 1900s, it was killed by Prohibition. So when Prohibition stopped in 1933, it was a few years before Monumental Distilling Company. Man, I'm getting tired. I'm definitely not going to get to the Lafroig at this point. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is Pikesville Rye, and it is a 55% ABV. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is a straight rye whiskey called Pikesville Rye. It is 55% ABV, bottled glory. It's made by Heaven Hill, but it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Wynyard and Brothers Distillery Company, they started in Scotts Level, Maryland, and they dubbed it Pikesville because that happened to be the name of the town next door. Historians kind of think that Scotts Level might be a little too close to Scotch, so they opted to not go with that. But like most whiskeys that are around in the early 1900s, this was killed by Prohibition, and right? But after 1933, when Prohibition was repealed, it took about 3 more years for Monumental Distilling Company to come and buy the brand. And they moved over to Baltimore and kind of maintained what made this recipe great. So they maintained the only Maryland-style rye whiskey in the US, and still to this day, to my knowledge. So, fuck, why would I say that? Boy. Yeah. All right, take a deep breath. Okay, I got this. It's like just really warm in this house, and it's really throwing me off, and like it's all I can think of. I'm sure it's the whiskey, but we'll see. Just have to get to the nosing and the tasting, and I got it. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite rye whiskeys. This is Pikesville Rye, and it's a straight rye whiskey, and it's owned by Heaven Hill, but it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Wynyard and Brothers Distilling Company, they started in Scotts Level, Maryland, and they ended up naming the whiskey after the adjacent town of Pikesville because historians kind of think that Scotts Level might sound a little bit too much like Scotch, and there's really no positive reason for why they did this, but it's kind of the believed reason. Either way, like most whiskeys that were available in the early 1900s, this was killed by Prohibition. And so in 1933, when it was Prohibition, let me start again. He said, I keep missing the comments. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to you about Pikesville Rye. This is a straight rye whiskey bottled at 55% ABV, and it is made by Heaven Hill, but it was not always that way. Back in 1895, L. Wynyard and Brothers Distillery were making this whiskey in Scotts Level, Maryland, and they dubbed it Pikesville after the adjacent town. Now, historians kind of think that they didn't go with the Scotts Level because it sounds a little bit too much like Scotch, but the facts are lost to time. So, like most whiskeys that were available in the early 1900s, this was killed by prohibition. But in 1933, when that was repealed, about 3 years later, they were bought by Monumental Distillery, which ended up moving over to Baltimore. But they did maintain the recipe that kept this and made this great. So this ends up being the only Maryland-style rye whiskey in the US, to my knowledge, still currently. So decades later, Heaven Hill ended up buying the brand, and Heaven Hill makes good stuff. I mean, you guys probably saw my video on Larceny recently, but everything that they make, everything they touch tends to be pretty good, so this is in good hands. That being said, I want to touch on another point that I made a minute ago. So Pikesville Rye is a Maryland-style rye whiskey. Now there are a couple different styles. There's Maryland style, which tends to be a little bit more delicate, and then there's Philadelphia style, which is kind of that burn that you usually get, and usually when I'm reviewing whiskeys, that's more what I'm drinking. So it tends to be a little bit spicy. This particular whiskey, the mash bill for it is 51% rye, and 39% corn, and 10% malted barley. And it has to be aged for 6 years. And you're going to see when I'm going over the nose that even at 51% rye, it's very delicate. So speaking of which, let's go into the nosing and the tasting. All right. So I'm going to give it a little swirl, kind of open it up a little bit. All right. All right. First thing that I'm getting here is cherry, actually, and I love that. It's whenever I get cherry out of a rye or a bourbon or something like that, it always reminds me of a Manhattan, or just it kind of Manhattans. So first thing I'm getting is cherry. Then I'm following that up with oak, but it's not as harsh of an oak as you often get. It's more of just a subtle wood kind of nose. There's also a very gentle spice, which is that Maryland type style rye whiskey. It's very, very delicate kind of rye. I mean, you guys have had ryes before. The spicy notes that you get, tame them down about 50%, and that's what this is like. All right. Also getting some cinnamon and a little bit of green apple in there, but those are pretty far back. All right, let's go ahead and give this a taste. Cheers. All right, that confirms it. So let me kind of go into this for a minute. Back when I was first tasting this, like months and months and months ago, I did my usual nosing and tasting notes. And I had just finished drinking a cherry Coke right before I had this because I wanted to have a little bit more energy. I was kind of fading, it was a long day at work or whatever. And I remember drinking a cherry Coke, and I remember writing down my notes here. And I just assumed that the cherry Coke was influencing the taste. So I wrote cherry, and then I wrote like sweetness, like Coke, and I actually even put, this might be because of the Coke I had. But try it now. I'm not going to say it tastes like cherry Coke because that sounds terrible. And even if I were, it would only be in the best of ways. But what it has is a cherry flavor and then kind of a sweetness that you would typically get from a Coke. It doesn't have the cola flavor. It's just cherry and sweet. And anyway, I thought that was it's not something that you pick up very often. So outside of that, despite the cherry Coke, I'm also getting vanilla and surprisingly no burn. I was amazed the first time that I had this at the lack of burn when you taste this, because when you think rye, especially 110 proof, you are not thinking no burn, but that's what this gives you. So let's go into kind of the overall here. Well, those of you who have watched the channel for a while know that I love Pikesville Rye. It is something I've bought several bottles of at this point, so it's almost a little bit unfair to give it anything other than a stock it in my mind, because I literally stock it. But for all of you out there, I give it a very solid buy it. I think this is something that you should try. Anybody who watches It's Bourbon Night, they love this as well. It's one of Sarah's favorites, and actually I did a live stream with both of them, and this is one of the things that we drank together. So they think highly of it, and just other whiskey tubers in general all think pretty highly of this whiskey. So it's a very safe bet, and it's fairly inexpensive. So that would be my suggestion. I think it's a solid buy it, if not a stock it. So thank you for joining me here on this episode of the Whiskey Dictionary, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Cheers. I rambled a little bit there, but I'm not heartbroken over it. I'd rather be done filming this episode. So, all right. I did it. Yay! I know that was a tough one. I get that from time to time. It wasn't even close to the hardest one I've had before, but it's not fun when they go on that long. Just be sure to put out the Larceny episode before the I know. Yeah, Troy. Sometimes it's. I think I'm just tired. I think that's it. I've already filmed, like, this is the 4th episode I've filmed, so that doesn't help. But anyway, I'm happy that you guys were all able to join me for this. This is kind of fun, and I'll definitely do this again in the future. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. So thank you for joining me and kind of keeping me company while I do this. I hope it was entertaining, and I'm gonna go take a shower, go sit on the couch, drink the rest of my whiskeys, and kind of be done for the night. So have a great rest of your night, everybody, and thanks again for joining in. If you're watching this in the future, I hope that you skipped over the first, like, 6 minutes. All right, talk to you later. Bye.